Explosive late game terms, a dominant mid game, and one of the coolest themes in all of Lorcana, this is Villains. Welcome to my deck guide. As usual, here is a list of everything in this video, so if you're looking for anything specific, here are the timestamps. So, what are the key cards in this deck? We want to use an 8 card Hades to quest for an insane amount. By filling the board up with cards that have the villain class, Hades will gain 1 extra quest point for each of them. Combined with the power to shift on top of an existing Hades for 6 ink, you don't have to waste a turn for Hades to ready up, allowing you to surprise the opponent and rapidly end the game. To play lots of characters, we're going to need to draw a lot of cards. To help with this, we have the Amethyst Powerhouse card, Friends on the Other Side. The deck contains others, but this song is so simple and effective it finds its way into most Amethyst decks. Another way to draw cards is with the use of the Amber card, Rapunzel. Arguably the best card in the entire game. You can use this card to heal a character up to 3, and in doing so, you can draw a card for each health healed, meaning you can draw 3 cards and play a character to make your board insanely strong. The final key card we have is Stitch. This card allows you to draw a card every time you play a card that costs 2 or less. This allows you to play characters to buff Hades and refill your hand to keep on going until the Hades is so strong it can end the game. This is the deck list I've come up with. It includes every villain card currently available except Ursula because it's too slow and we don't want to add more in ink pools. All these villains allow us to reach Hades' maximum potential since it is the main card of the deck. We have a lot of draw power from Maleficent, Rapunzel, Queen and Stitch, and plenty of recursion. The smaller 4-cost Hades can loop itself, meaning that we can always be ready to explode onto the board with our 8-cost one, and the 7-cost Dr. Felicia adds back any card that dies back to our hand as long as he's on the board. This is our dream combo that we should always be on the lookout for. We want to have Rockstar Stitch and a 4-cost Hades already on the board ready to quest. On the following turn we can spend 6 ink to shift our Hades and then spend the remaining ink to build up a spam on the board with cheap villains. Hades will then quest for a large amount and our hand will have so many options for the next turn that we can exert that pressure onto the following turns. The combo shown here is a little optimistic, but it can happen if the stars align. We can draw 4 cards off of Stitch, Hades can suddenly quest for 5, Stitch can quest for another 3, meaning you've quested for 8 in a single turn, and are then threatening to quest for a furthermore 14 on the following turn, which even if you started at 0 points will be enough to win you the game, and all of this is assuming your board has basically empty when you started. For the Mulligan, we want to find cards that will allow us to get to our big Hades with minimal effort. It's a good idea to look for some 1-drops to start the game strong, a 2-drop to keep the pressure going. I've got Simba here as it's the strongest, but any of them will do. Some card draw is fantastic to make sure we don't fizzle out before we reach our big turn. Friends on the Other Side is a good example of a card that can help us get there. And then if our Mulligan is looking quite strong, we can then look for a 4-cost Hades so it's in play early and we can begin the Hades loop. Now the matchup spread looks a little bit weak, and realistically it kind of is. This is one of those decks where when you do get the combo off, it feels amazing and it's probably one of the most fun decks in the game, but you won't get that every game. I've put Amethyst in the favourable section. It's purely because they have no cards that can directly affect your Hades. Your goal here is just to establish a strong enough board and finish off with the combo. For even, I've put Amber and Sapphire. Against Amber, you want to fight for the board and steadily get to a winning position. Sapphire wants to ramp, so in this matchup, you need to go on the offensive and try to get a wide board fast. The quicker you can end, the better. You don't want them using cards like Let It Go or their own Hades on your main threats, as it will severely swing the game in your opponent's favour. In unfavourable, we have Emerald, Ruby and Steel. Emerald, unfortunately, is just way too fast for our deck. If they get going and we have no real way to deal with their targets, then it's just going to be over very quickly for them. Ruby is the king of control currently. Tools such as Dragonfire make it really hard for your own keycards to stick on the board, and Be Prepared makes it difficult to establish a wider board. Not to mention the late game monsters Ruby also has access to, like Maleficent. And finally, Steel is one of the best decks currently at controlling smaller units from an early point in the game. A shifted Tinkerbell can spell disaster for our deck. Overall, not the best matchup spread, but you can definitely get some insane wins, and the deck is an absolute bust to play. That's it for the deck breakdown. We're going to head into some live games now. If you have any decks that you want to see this type of video for, leave a comment and I'll get around to it. See you in the games. Okay, great, so heading into the first game here. Mulligan looks quite good actually. We've got some early game units, we've got some card draw, and we have a Hades. So I think I'm going to ditch one Hades, ditch a Stitch, keep Friends. We can get rid of the second Stitch and Jafar as well, and I'm happy with that. So we get our 2-drops, which is fantastic, and we're going first, so Simba's always good there. We've got Hades, and we've even got the shifted Hades, and we've got loads of card draw, so we should be happy with this start. So I'm going to go ahead and ink this Rapunzel. It's quite a questionable one, but we do already have card draw, and we just kind of want to get a whiteboard. We don't know what the opponent's playing yet, so be important to see what that is as well. So they're playing Steel, which isn't very good for us. They're going to have ways to deal with our smaller units. There's a Simba, which is good for us because we won't be able to trade into the Stitch. So I'm thinking if I want to go Dr. Felicia or Simba here, the advantages of Simba would be that I can use Bodyguard, whereas Felicia is a villain, so it will push the win condition of the Hades a little bit further. They discarded a big Tink there, which is good, but it also tells me that they might have another one in hand. So I think I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this Simba, so I can play the Felicia, and then we can go ahead and quest with the Stitch, since we know that the Simba doesn't have enough damage to trade into it, and if they have got 5 of the cannons, then Stitch would just be dead anyway. Hand's looking a little bit weak, lots of uninkables in the opening hand, which is fine, but we do have some card draw with friends on the other side. We have no units to sing it though. Normally you can use like a 3-drop Maleficent to draw a card and then sing the next turn to draw 2 more cards, so you've drawn 3 cards off of just the Maleficent. And you've still got the ink to play with, which is quite good. Opponent's going to use Ransack, so they're looking in their deck, they're looking for some answers, so it's safe to assume that they do have a Shift Tinkerbell. So we've also gone for the Felicia there, just because it's got the high health stat. And then if the opponent quests with the Simba, we can use the Felicia to get rid of it. They've not done that. So we can either use friends on the other side to draw some cards, or we can play the Simba to get a wider board and just go quite fast. I think I might play the Simba instead of drawing cards, and then we can even ink the friends. I'm not sure about that. I think I will play the Simba, we'll put it in Bodyguard, and then we'll quest with Felicia and Stitch, and then I will ink the friends. My kind of thought process there is hopefully I can draw a second card. That's inkable next turn, then we can play Hades, and then since we've got 2 Hades, we can just loop it until we can stall out to our big Hades, basically. Right now we do only have 1 villain, so our quest points is only going to be 2, but Hades has big stats anyway, so you can just keep questing turn after turn to just have the pressure, basically, and the big stats is going to be difficult for Seal to deal with, so we want to get to that shift as soon as possible. Opponent's playing Sapphire, so they're ramping quite heavily. Didn't get an inkable card, but we do have this Maleficent here, which we will play, and then we can go ahead and quest with everything. Like I say, against Steel, you just want to put the aggression on straight away. It is a shame we missed out and drew another uninkable there, but you know it happens. Especially in a deck where your main cards are uninkable, you're going to come across this problem quite a lot, which is why I say this deck is more of like a casual one, or one that, you know, it's not going to be the best deck, but it's definitely, it can compete for sure. Next time we're questing for 5, so we're almost already halfway to our win, and the opponent's still at 0, so we're looking quite strong there. However, the opponent is playing a ramp deck, so quite dangerous there. They've got aerial, so they will be going for those aerial combos, which basically allows them to play an item. Every time they play an item, the aerial can ready, so they can trade into our units quite well. And they can also quest for a lot as well, because normally a lot of cards that say when you ready this character, it says it can't quest, but aerial doesn't care about that. Aerial can't quest. I think it's the only one that can quest after it's readied, so you can do some crazy loops with that. The Simba does quest this time. I am going to ink this Jafar to play this Hades, just because I want to have Hades on board so I can start this loop, because I've got the second one. And then we can quest for everything. I think I'll hit this Felicia into the Simba. Wait, let me just quest with these 2 first to see kind of what I'm at. I'm at 10 and we're questing for 6, so the extra Felicia proc doesn't do anything, so it's better to just take the kill there. So we've got very wide board, which is what we want to do. We have missed a couple turns of inking, so we could shift into the Hades, which would go for 3, which would then boost us up to, so it does give us +2, so we go to 8, which means it might be worth questing with the Felicia there, because we can also shift Felicia, which goes from a 1 to a 3. So there's the aerial quest, and then plays an item. Hey, already there's the Felicia that I was just on about, another uninkable card, but I am just going to go ahead and quest up. That's the aggression of this deck. Against decks like this that are very slow, you can just kind of, you want to end the game as fast as possible before they get their combo. The thing with the aerial deck is it's so combo centric that it can only win with a combo, whereas this deck has the combo as like an extra win condition. You have a kind of like an aggressive deck style first, and then you have the backup option of just exploding onto the board with the Hades. And it's always an option because you do have the Hades in a loop. And then we do have cards like Felicia as well, which can also just add an extra 2 quest, which is very scary. It's a very dangerous number, especially in the later stages, and they can both shift as well. So you could go Felicia on 5 and then Hades on 6, which would be quite good, but you would need a really early start as well. That is like the absolute god hand, is if you just played loads of Maleficents and Felicia's first and then shifted them on turn 5 and 6, then you could just end the game really rapidly in that scenario. Opponents taking their turn to think. The aero deck is quite difficult to play. Chances are they're probably deciding if they want to use a Whole New World, which will discard my hand and draw 7, and it will do the same for them as well. There's another Tinkerbell, so they've maybe got a Tinkerbell to play, but they have inked 2 of them. So there's the Whole New World I was just talking about. So there's our Hades loop kind of gone actually, but you know, we only need to find another one. We do run 4 of them, so it'll be fine. We have really good options here. So we've got Rapunzel to draw cards, we've got Maleficent to draw cards, we've got Stitch to draw cards. None of that really matters. We can just go ahead and quest everything. And there's a really rapid game 1, just to show you how aggressive the deck can be, and it doesn't need the combo for its wins. Let's go to game 2. Okay, going second in game 2, we have a lot of uninkables again. We do find the turn 1 Maleficent into turn 2 Simba, which is arguably the best turn 1, turn 2 play we've got. I'm going to get rid of Rapunzel, get rid of the Jafar, get rid of the Rafiki, and I'm going to keep 1 Hades just because I've already got the turn 1 and 2. Normally if you don't have the first and second turn, you'd want to ink this Hades. Looks like we've got a shift Hades as well. I haven't got card draw, so we've got a very good opening hand. We're playing against Amber, which should be fine. There's a Hey Hey, which they inked a Hey Hey as well. There's another Maleficent, so we have lots of card draw. We've got our main cards and we've got stuff to protect. I am going to get rid of 1 Simba, I think. And then I'll just play this Maleficent. Now the turn 1 Maleficent into the turn 2 Simba is fantastic. Because Maleficent's only got 1 health, anything they play can attack into it after it quests, but Simba's bodyguard keyword stops that, and Simba's got great stats. So it just protects the Maleficent, and then the longer they spend trying to get rid of the Simba, the more points the Maleficent's questing for. So normally this 1-drop Maleficent can quest for 4, which is just really good basically. Opponent plays their own Simba there. I am going to ink 1 Friends on the other side here. I don't think I need 2, and I kind of like everything in my hand at the moment. I'm going to quest for the Maleficent and then play the bodyguard Simba. And then if they want to get rid of the bodyguard Simba, they're going to have to hit both their units into the Maleficent, or I guess they would just have to use the support keyword off of Hey Hey. So we've got the next turn, we've got the Maleficent. We are playing against Emerald Amber, which is another difficult matchup for this deck. So we're kind of like a race at this point. We can try to control the board, I guess. I feel like I am in a position that I can control the board, so I will go ahead and ink this Felicia. And then I'll play this Maleficent, which will allow me to draw 1 card, and then next turn I can sing with it to draw 2 cards. And then any damage I take, I can use Rapunzel to draw another 2 cards. So we can have a very, very fat hand going into the next turn. If they want to race, I think that's honestly fine. I'll quest for the Maleficent, and then I will also... Sure, I'll quest for the Simba. There's an argument to hit into the Simba, which I think actually might be correct. But I just want to get this Rapunzel value. But I think it might be better to hit there, mainly because then if they want to trade, they have to hit into it, and I don't get hit with the Flim Rider discard a card, something like that. They're going to return the Simba back to our hand, and then I'm assuming they're just going to hit into this Maleficent, yeah, which is fine. I'm trying to think what the ideal play is this turn. Opponent is running low on cards. So there's a shift up to Felicia. So I'm going to ink this Rapunzel. And then I'm going to hit this Maleficent into this Simba to trade them. And then I will go ahead and actually use this Hades. And I can actually add I think I want to add this 1-cost Maleficent back to my hand. Just because I can start spamming the board, get a wide board for villains, and Maleficent's just the best cheap villain basically. You can take an inkable card there and then ink the card for the next turn, but I'm fine with this. So what we can do now is we can We can play 2 Maleficents and a Simba, and then we can ink this Rapunzel for sure. And then we can hit into this Flynn because it's questing for a lot, and then we'll go ahead and we'll discard this Felicia. We don't really need it. And then next turn we can quest for 6. So we're just going to try to compete for the board this turn, and then on the turn 6 we can shift into the Hades, or even the next turn we can shift into the Hades and start questing for a lot. So this 6 will become an 8, which is quite a scary number. I'm actually going to go ahead and do that now, I think. Or we can do it next turn, so we can play 2 Hades to give us the chance. And then we can add back this Maleficent, and we can ink this Maleficent maybe. Sure. And then we can quest with... So I'm thinking if I want to sing with this Hades, I think I will just sing with the Hades to draw some cards. So I just sing with the Hades. And then what were we playing against? We're playing against Emerald, Amber, so we can go ahead and play this Stitch as well, just for more quest. And the next turn I can shift into this bigger Hades and quest for a lot of points. So right now I'm questing for 8, the Hades will give us the 10 that we need. And that's a turn 6, very wide board, and just the surprise factor of the Hades should be enough to win you a lot of matchups. So opponent plays a Cusco there, which is a lot of tempo as well. I feel like just with this shift Hades we will have enough to close the game up. Opponent is going to trade there, and then I think they're going to hit into Maleficent, which will slow us down quite a lot. That's -3 quest if you think about it that way. So important to think if this is worth it or not. So currently we're questing for 5. We'll quest for 7 if we do this. Opponent's questing for 4. I think it's worth it. So I will go ahead and shift onto the damaged one. And then we can quest for a lot basically. So there's 17. Opponent has to do quite a lot to deal with this. Thinking if they could do anything super impactful. Next turn I can also ink this Queen to play Felicia, so anything that they do get rid of just gets added back to our hand. There's a second Cusco, so quite dangerous from our opponent. But yeah, once again, I think we've just got so much tempo, and there's the stats of the Hades as well coming through. Lots of health, lots of attack, it's just very hard to get rid of. And if they've got no direct removal, it will just stick and you can quest for a lot of points. Opponent's opting to remove a lot of stuff from the board, so we do have 2. But once again, there's a surprise factor. We can just play a cheap villain, and then the Hades gets the extra quest point that we need to close out the game, and there's a win for game number 2. Okay, so we're going into our 3rd and final game. We finally see the Rockstar Stitch, which we've not seen all day. We do have Stitch for turn 1, turn 2, Yzma, I think is how you pronounce it, and then the Felicia, so I'm going to get rid of this Jafar, I'm going to get rid of the Stitch, maybe. I'll keep the Stitch solely because I've got the 1-cost Stitch, and I can get rid of the Felicia and the big Hades. And then we get some card draw and a turn 2 Simba and a turn 3 Rafiki, so a really good mulligan here. The hardest question is kind of what do we want to ink? I think I'll get rid of this Yzma. And then we'll play a Stitch, and then hopefully we can protect it with Simba on turn 2. Turn 3 play a Felicia, and then turn 4 we can shift into the Stitch. And the Stitch does have 3 quest points, so it is building that tempo up a lot quicker as well. Getting us to that accelerated win con. Opponent plays their own Stitch, so we're playing against Amber Amethyst, I think it was. Yeah, Amber Amethyst. So we can go ahead and ink this Felicia. And then we can play the Bodyguard Simba. Make sure you always put it in Bodyguard mode so that it can protect the Stitch. So now if the Stitch wants to attack into any of our units, it's going to just trade itself and the Simba will stay alive. Getting us 1 turn closer to that turn 4 Rockstar Stitch, which gives us so much tempo. The opponent's going to bounce back Simba, which is fine, and trade the Stitches, which is also fine. They're going to play their own Stitch again. We can actually get rid of this Jafar. And then I'll play this Felicia. It's got the villain keyword, and also it can trade into the Stitch pretty nicely, because it does have the Challenger too, so it's pretty good. We can even play Rafiki to attack into the Stitch if they decide to quest with it. Rafiki is one of those cards that buys you a lot of turns. Opponent opts to not do anything, which is fine for me. I can go ahead and ink this Simba, I think. And then I'll use this turn, since they didn't do much last turn, to draw some cards with friends on the other side, which is great, so I get some more card draw, and I find the smaller Hades, which is always good. So we can kind of drop the Hades down as soon as possible, really, and then as soon as we find a second one, we can start the loop going, and we'll have that potential with the Shift Hades. We've also got the Stitch in hand to go for those combos that we spoke about before, so always good from that front. Opponent can't really quest with the Stitch here, or it will just get traded out with the Felicia. There's a Simba that they shifted, Archimedes, and then no quest from any of the units there. So I think I will go ahead and play a Hades, and then we can add Stitch back to our hand, and then we can ink this Felicia, and then we can actually just play this Stitch, and then we've still got that threat of shifting into the Rockstar Stitch very soon. Thinking if I want to quest with this Felicia, it does give me 1 point, but they can just kill it for free, so I'm just not going to quest this turn. Always kind of important to just not just automatically quest whenever you can. You want to keep in mind if the opponent can do anything, if they can build any pressure off of you doing that. So we don't want to do that because they can, basically. Opponent's building a wider board. There's the Rockstar Stitch of their own, which can buy them a lot of tempo. There's an Olaf. We'll draw them a card, which is kind of what we want to be doing. Opponent's playing the same ink colours as us, but they're playing a very different deck. We're not playing any of these cards other than the Stitch. Okay, nothing from the opponent there. So thinking I could even shift into my own Rockstar Stitch, or I could sing. What I can do is I can play this Rafiki, actually, and then I can just swing into this Olaf, and then the Felicia can get rid of the flu, and then yeah, I don't mind questing with both of these here. I could even sing. I think I might sing Friends on the other side with the Hades to draw 2. We find another Friends on the other side and a Simba. I could play Simba and ink this Friends, or I could do the other way around. I think I will ink the Simba. It does give me a lot of board presence, but I have kind of a dead hand, so I want to dig for more options. More card draw and another unit, which is great. And I'm going to not quest with the Stitch because I want to keep that option to shift very soon. Also, opponent hits with the Stitch, which we can trade back with the Felicia. Rapunzel's going to heal it. I think that's fine. That's a lot of card draw from the opponent. Maybe that's something we can think around if we want to be a bit more competitive. We want to think, do we have any units with free attack that we just let them trade into so they can draw cards with Rapunzel? So that's something to think about. Thankfully enough, we do have kind of the resources to finally get rid of their Stitch. They don't quest it at all, so they've not got any closer to that win condition. And we don't mind the game going on for a little bit longer because, like I say, the Hades is such a powerful unit. And we've got 2 of them now, so looking quite good. Opponent's questing for 1. So I can use my Hades to attack into the Simba, which is fine. And then once we draw the second Hades, we can start looping those. And then we can shift our Stitch, and then we can get rid of their Stitch. It will kill our Felicia, but that's fine. And then we just kind of want to trade our Stitches back and forth. I will play this Felicia to draw a card with the Stitch before I do anything. We do draw our own Rapunzel, which is great, so it kind of makes me think that I can get rid of this Friends. I think getting rid of Friends is better here because we want to keep the units to save up for this Hades, and then we can attack into their Stitch with R1 to get rid of that massive threat. And and then we're looking quite good. We're kind of just playing a very mid-rangey kind of game here, so I feel like the last 2 games have gone on more of the aggro style of the deck, whereas now we're seeing the more mid-rangey kind of stalling style of the deck. Trading units back and forth, trying to see who can establish a better board, basically. The Rapunzel's going to quest for 2, which is quite dangerous, but it's fine. The opponent's just playing some units here. Another Stitch, which means we're probably... Okay, so they're going very wide here. They're going very wide, so they're questing for 9 next turn, which is very explosive from them. So we can definitely play some Maleficent to draw a card. We could see our own Stitch. And then we can react with a Simba. We don't have to put it in Bodyguard. I feel like I will anyway. And then we can... I'll hit into the Rapunzel. Actually, I'll hit into the Rapunzel, because then we can hit into the Stitch to get free damage on the Felicia, which we can then We can use our own Rapunzel to draw 3 cards, which is quite good. I feel like right now both of us are kind of just in top deck mode, seeing who can make their board stick. There's another Rockstar Stitch from our opponent, so opponent's playing very well here. And they will be questing for 11, which is huge. They've just used Befuddle on their only load to protect it, so it's not in like a tapped position. And they also get a card draw for that, so really good play by the opponent there. And the opponent's just going to quest up for a lot of points. So let's see what we can do. So we definitely want to go ahead and get rid of these Lilos because they're questing for 2. So we'll get rid of this one, we'll get rid of this one, and then we can use Rapunzel here to heal the Felicia for 2 to draw 2, find a Jafar and a Maleficent, so I can actually... I feel like my board's quite wide here. Opponent is still questing for 7, so it's quite a lot, so I can play this Jafar, just because I kind of want the board, and then I can hit into the food they'll be questing for a lot. So opponent's looking quite dangerous here. If they have any unit, we kind of just lose right here. I feel like it might be better to hit both of them into this Rapunzel, and then opponent will be questing for 4. Oh, that's 5. That should be fine. And then kind of hoping if the opponent plays any unit, we kind of just lose. There's a Pascal, which does have evasive, which is very good for us. I don't think we have any kind of like spot removal. Our kind of dream here would be to find like a Rafiki for the rush. Although Stitch does put them in exerted mode, so we can clear them if we clear everything else, but we do have to get rid of at least one of the Pascals because we have no way to deal with the evasive. There's the Lilo. Opponent's just going off with their Stitch here. There's the Maleficent. Don't think we have enough units to kind of deal with this. There's another Maleficent, so opponent's just really going off here. And this is something that our deck can do as well, but we can also combine it with the threat of the massive Hades. So we'll play Hades anyway. We'll just see how much he would have 4 quests, so we had a lone quest on board. Let's see if we can kind of do anything here. We can definitely use this Jafar to attack into the Stitch, Rapunzel into the Maleficent, and then we can just clean up all the cheap units basically, but I think the evasive of the Pascal is going to be too much for us. And I think that will be a loss on game 3. Yeah, no way to deal with the evasives. As you can see, there's nothing to really do there, so I'll just quest with this Maleficent. And that will be a loss on game number 3, but overall I feel like I've displayed the deck very well, very fun deck, and can definitely win a lot of games. Thanks so much for watching. If you have any deck recommendations, leave them in the comments and I'll be sure to get around to them. Other than that, thank you so much for all the support, and I'll see you in the next one.